Hi there. Welcome to RNR's Ask the Expert. I'm your host, Valerie King, RNR's editor in chief, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Nia Sherrema Pearson. She's founder of Marketing for Real Results, which is located in Sherman Oaks, California. Marketing for Real Results is a full service marketing agency that provides consulting and implementation services, and it specializes in helping restoration, real estate, and retail businesses. We invited Nia on to talk marketing best practices for property restoration companies. Thank you so much for joining me, Nia.
Thank you. You're so welcome. I'm so excited to share my insights today. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thrilled to have you here, as mentioned. So, what's the story behind marketing for real results and how you built a marketing agency that happens to specialize in the niche industry of property restoration?
Yeah, pretty cool, right? I think I'm pretty cool, but just some of the decisions that I make makes me super cool. No, I literally started this agency in 2015 after many, many years of working in marketing. I worked in various different vertical markets, the ones that we specialize in, retail. We did a lot of construction and also a restoration. So it's really a culmination of my experiences in marketing. Besides that, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father was a small business owner, so I literally had a chance to learn about business when I was a child. I watched, I memorized, kind of fixated myself on who I was going to be as a business person. And so here I am today, helping restoration companies, helping retail companies, working with, restoration, retail, and real estate, which is one of my favorites. That's the booming market right now. But that's another conversation. So yeah, restoration guys, they know me. I'm their favorite. I hope to say that because I really do love what I do. I really do give 100% to every single client, and it's great. So yeah, here we are, 2015 till now. We are still, despite the COVID pandemic, we still are flourishing in our business, which is literally a testament to, our admiration to the industry. We're consistently learning and educating ourselves on the process. So it's great.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So, what marketing services, let's take a deeper dive here. What marketing services does the company offer to restoration businesses?
So literally we offer consulting, which is just basically conversations about your business, where you are and where you want to go. We're definitely a strategic company in the sense that we try to focus on business goals as an alignment to the marketing services, right? So that's one component. The other component is the implementation of marketing services, which is we do email marketing, social media marketing, we build marketing plans for clients. I mean, just a gamut of different services. We literally partner with the companies that offer, some of the automation that we need to be able to drive results, right? So, for example, partnering with companies like Accessibility, which is a ADA compliance, solution that everyone should have on their website. Just there's regulation about that, and then we partner with Constant Contact. So, partnering with the right companies that offer solutions that our audience needs.
Okay. So, to get a sense of who you serve in the industry, what size restoration companies do you work with? Do you work with franchisees, for example, independents, both? Tell
We
me about that.
we literally work with both, and so we work with both from different perspectives. So the ability for us to provide the consulting piece is just literally a conversation, which a lot of the franchisees don't necessarily need because they literally have a built-in component of that from a franchise perspective. But for the independent guys, those are the guys that literally kind of need that hand holding from a business planning perspective. So that's how we are able to sustain those relationships, because we understand business, we understand marketing, so we align those two to make things happen.
Very good. Given that you work with a number of companies across the industry, I can imagine you see all kinds of challenges and unique stories and needs. So I'm curious what the most common challenge is that you see restoration companies face with when it comes to marketing, and maybe a hint at the solution.
Well, I think one of the challenges, the biggest challenge I'll say, that a lot of restoration guys don't necessarily understand is the need to have a formal business structure, right? So a lot of them don't get to that point until they start making, over $1 million, then they want to implement processes and put systems in place, which I recommend to start with the systems first, because it's a lot easier for you to be able to grow when you have the right systems in place. So even if you're a small guy, you're literally not making that much money, some services that you need are not even expensive. So I think formalizing your business from the beginning is pretty smart, and understanding the value of branding is like, one of the biggest and best advantages that any company can have, let alone restoration guys. Why? Because it's a huge part of your business, right? When you show up to someone's door, right, you want to make sure your truck is branded. You want to make sure your team is branded. You want to make sure that you are presenting a professional appearance. So, you can potentially get that referral business. So definitely button up, from the beginning.
Very good. So a system and really embracing the importance of branding and not waiting until a certain profit is achieved, but really starting from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. Similar to the challenge question, but a little different. Is there a common misconception or are there common assumptions that you see restoration businesses make about marketing when you go to work with them?
Tons of them. I'll stick to one that's pretty common. It's the SEO component, right? So SEO is a very wide range of services, right? So when someone comes to me and they say, "Oh, I want to improve my SEO," and I say, "Okay, so do you have a website, or do you have a, this or that?" A lot of times understanding the foundation of marketing and understanding what you really need for your business is super duper important for restoration guys, because I think a lot of them hear things from other people. Oh, how did I, grow my business? I mean, most of it in the beginning is going to be, PPC, which is a pay-per-click campaign, which generally, to get water damage jobs at 35, 45 grand, I mean, it's one of those elements that you should potentially start with. So that's where the difference between the franchises and the independents, it comes into play, because the franchises generally have that PPC marketing piece, align as far as keywords and things like that. So understanding your keywords, understanding the foundation of where you want to grow your business. So back to that first, point that I made, is really important for you to have direction. It's like a map, right? Where are you going to go with your business? And then you just kind of look through, you're under the envelope of everything that you have going on, and make decisions based on that. It's super important to make sound business decisions and really understand what it is that you want to do. And that's the strength that our agency provides, because we get it, we understand where you want to go, but we just want to try to help you to build a nice foundation.
Thanks, Nia. I love to add more color to these points you make about SEO, for example, and branding in general. Uh, what are the basics, I guess, that every restoration company should be doing today to market their business, if nothing else? Because I know marketing is a bit of a beast with a big umbrella with a lot of different things that fall under it. So, if we hone in on what you consider most important, what would you say that is?
Honestly, what most important right now, I would say, is having a Google Plus business page. Having a Google
Mm.
Plus business page is probably the smartest thing that any company can do, let alone a restoration company should do. Why? Why? Because first of all, populating your business on the first page of Google results is like an ideal situation for any business, right? So playing in the space that Google owns would pretty much make sense to do that, right? So if Google has a platform for you to you know, express, knowledge and information about your products and services, then that makes sense, right? To me, to be there. And a lot of people don't necessarily get that. They don't see the level of importance. A lot of people think just having a website is enough. It's like, that's not enough, right? And even having a website is not enough if you don't have the marketing funnels in place, if you don't have the right, basically, services align with conversations about your geographical area. So to touch, I won't go too far into those different, I mean, literally we can go, really far and really deep, but I'll stick to the point of what the basics are. I would say a Google Plus business page is like super important.
Very good. Is a Google Plus business page complicated to set up? Is it straightforward? Is it expensive?
It's pretty straightforward. You literally can Google, start a Google Plus business page, and you can build a Google Plus business page in probably 15 or 20 minutes. So that's the foundation, right? So that's the beginning. So there are additional steps that you want to take once you have a Google Plus business page. So you want to make sure you're uploading photos of your jobs. You want to make sure, that's super important, right? So why does that matter? Because some clients are going to see an example potentially of their job or their project or their plumbing issue, and they're going to say, oh wow, this guy can probably help me, right? So in addition to what you're doing on other platforms, meaning the if you are you know if you are have a PPC campaign with Google, if you have a Facebook or Instagram advertising campaign, if you have those components, you should definitely 100% have a Google Plus business page. Is the smartest decision that you can make as a business owner. So a second basic that I would add to that, in addition to the Google Plus business page, I would say that text marketing, having a text marketing tool is super important. Why? Because this is the way that everyone's communicating. This is the fastest channel to be able to get your message out. This is how people are responding within 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, there's so many different stats on how receptive people are that people are to text marketing. I mean, our clients are seeing like getting their invoices paid within 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, after the job is done, you send the invoice via text. It's like smart for business. So I would say Google Plus and having the text marketing tool are just pretty important right now. So what's the Google Plus business page going to do? That's going to satisfy your digital component, right? So what's the text marketing going to do? That's going to satisfy your traditional component of marketing, right? Because that's your direct communication.
Nice. Okay. So we've talked about what you consider the basics, if nothing else. What
Well,
would you say?
there's tons of things. I mean, listen, there's always so many different elements. And what I like to tell guys, so it depends on how your business is set up, right? So
uh,
your business is set up, how many team members that you have in place. I mean, all those factors literally do matter. So I would say that if you're that's those are just basics in the sense of regardless of how many people you have in place, these are things that you can literally do very fairly quickly and cost effectively.
Thank you. Are there any things that restoration companies can do to really go above and beyond with marketing themselves that may be applicable to most of them, no matter their size or location or service offerings?
Yeah, what they could potentially do is to build a better rapport within the city that they work in, right? So if you are not affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce in your local city, that's a missed opportunity, right? Why? Because there's people from various different industries that you can connect with. So that's a missed opportunity for any restoration guy. I mean, literally from starting your business to having the ribbon cutting done, that's just smart business. I mean, and there's a social responsibility required for businesses, right? So being well niched in your specific city is very important. I know a lot of these guys are like, oh, what's your territory? Oh, my territory is like everywhere. It's like, literally, really, how could you do that? Like, so does a customer understand that? Absolutely not, because people are selfish and they want to think that you are accessible to them at any time, right? So that's where having a local telephone number matters versus having like an 888 number, because it resonates better with the area, I guess the customers that are closest to you.
Interesting point there, even about the phone number. Definitely never thought about that. Okay, so speaking of going above and beyond, or maybe this isn't going above and beyond and it's just table stakes, but I know we talked prior to this about ADA accessibility. You hinted at it earlier. When it comes to the website, you said it's an overlooked thing. Can you elaborate on what that is, what ADA accessibility is, and why it's important?
Okay, I'm sure. So 88, there is probably, I think maybe 10 years ago, has been conversations about, you're familiar with like the Title 3 of the American Disabilities Act. So that's what this is all about. So people with disabilities do not normally, outside of us modifying our websites for them to have access, they won't have access, right? So they don't have visually impaired, all these different elements. They have issues with purchasing products and services online. So the ADA has said, okay, so anyone that has a website should make their website accessible to people with disabilities. That's basically what we're doing, right? We're making our products, or not products for this particular industry, we're making our service accessible to someone with a disability. I mean, just think about it. Just think about a person that has a disability that can't access your website, and they have a, water damage, they have a flood, they have a sink overflow, they have one of these, services that we provide in the restoration space. How would they access you, right? So there's an automated tool that you can have on your website that will help them to access the information on your website. So it basically triggers based on the parity that the person has. So from one perspective, it is required by law. The ADA, it's a requirement. From another perspective, from a branding perspective, I mean, you're getting your products and services out to more people, your services, sorry, again, out to more people. So that just makes sense. So not just a requirement, but also an opportunity to expand your services. And we actually have a article on our website that we recently posted because we were getting a lot of questions about, is this does this make sense? What's this all about? So we literally break down all aspects of ADA compliance, and we kind of give an option for a resource that we have partnered with a company called Accessibility, who provides the services. Literally, if you have less than 500 pages on your website, it's like $500 a year, right? So, and the other part of it is you literally can be fined for not having this, and a lot of people don't know that. So I mean, that those stats are also there too. So it's one of these things where I think years ago, where we had to have a SSL certificate on our website, which is the security, a lock on every website. And then Google started to penalize companies that didn't have that. I think we're going to head towards that direction where if you don't have that, then you might be penalized. It's not happening right now, but it's starting to gain a lot of momentum. And I can definitely see that happening in the future.
Interesting. So I'm curious about the big picture when we think about the clients you serve. Restoration is a unique industry. Many industries have multiple stakeholders they're serving, but we have the policyholders, the insurance side, the subcontractors, and even other trades. I'm wondering how you approach marketing strategy when you're working with these restoration companies as they think about those different target audiences they may have. So, are you working with them across those target audiences? Are you specializing in a certain audience like the policyholders? And just what is your take on marketing across verticals? Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely all, right? So
Okay.
we look at generally, obviously, plumbers are a direct correlation to business for restoration guys, but I also look to from property management perspective, right? So the property management perspective is a huge opportunity. I recommend my guys are affiliated with the apartment associations across the country. I mean, that's super important because the apartment association has hundreds and hundreds of constituents, right? So they are servicing property management owners. And so having a direct relationship with them just definitely makes sense. So we target, property management. We target plumbers, and we target, the insurance guys are also good, but that's where everyone is. So that's like a crowded space where, obviously the years that you've been in business is going to be a determinant on how much of that business that you're going to get. So is that a good avenue? Absolutely. But for me, I always try to go the back door. So not always go within the realms of where everyone else is, the crowd is, right? So try to be creative and add an element of your culture, right? So understand who you are as a business and align opportunities that way. So back to that point that I made earlier about, affiliating yourself with, chamber of commerce, your local communities, I mean, restaurants. I mean, you got to be creative in order to get business, right? So almost being the mayor of your city or state for one particular service. I mean, you can have tons of mayors, doesn't have to be the government one, right? It can be someone that is a real estate person, someone that is a restoration guy, someone that is a restaurant. I mean, there's so many different ways. So laying out your business in the sense of having a roadmap, understanding who you are, having your culture aligned, align that with your branding. I mean, all these factors are super important.
Interesting. And I'm intrigued by everything you've said has pointed to, yes, we're in this digital world that we need to really embrace, but also there's this human side where those human connections remain so critical. Is that a proper analysis?
That's a proper, of course. So personalization is how you're going to make the connection, right? So our business is all about connections. People buy or people do business with people they like, right? So yes, we need to have this digital component, but we can't forget that making those outbound calls. A lot of guys don't have a full team where they can afford to have someone making outbound calls. Hire a virtual assistant. I mean, you literally can give these people a script, and then just if you wanted to just focus on mold services, right? Because that's something that's not time sensitive, then that would be a revenue stream that you could potentially create, right? So it's about really being creative and not just following the flow of what everyone else is doing. It's like setting yourself apart, because that's what's going to really make a difference. And yeah, we need to follow, I mean, some of the protocols that are in place that make sense, but we also need to personalize experiences. I mean, that's huge for marketing right now.
Great. Well, speaking of looking outside of your internal resources, I'm curious about your take on when restoration companies should look to an agency versus an internal team or employee to handle their marketing.
So I think having so what does a consultant bring to the table? I would say it's expert, advice, right? So we're working with restoration contractors across the country, not just in California where we are. So we bring that value. So I think an isolated role is a little bit different, because that person is a lot of times taking advice, or basically their job responsibilities are predicated from the owner of the business, right? So we're not, the owner is not predicating to us, we're giving them recommendations, right? So it's just a different perspective. And we work with a lot of internal marketing departments in our business. So it's not like, okay, one or the other. You can always have, a consultant supporting your business in addition to having an internal person. So we're a little more expensive, obviously, than having an internal person, but we can support that internal person in understanding, what should be done and laying out plans. We do that for a lot of companies. We lay out plans, and then they have, someone else execute it for them.
Interesting. Back
But
to this whole go ahead.
I had to choose, it would be best to have a expert. I mean, come on, it just makes the most sense for you to not have to deal with the marketing at all. So that's what our marketing agency brings. It brings that opportunity for someone to not have to think about marketing, right? So once we meet with our clients, we lay out a plan, and we pretty much take it from there, right? We communicate every month about progress that we're having, and you don't have to have that as another item for you to think about. You can just focus on, getting new business.
Okay. So I'm hearing it could be a blend or a one or the other of consulting and expertise, but also bandwidth to execute.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now back to the digital topic. We may have covered this earlier, but I'm curious if you have any quick tips to offer on digital marketing in this increasingly digital world.
Yeah, there's tons of, I think the point I made earlier as far as the text marketing piece, I think that's super important. I mean, that can be considered either digital or traditional because of the personalization, but I definitely would recommend 100% you need to have a text marketing platform in place. When it comes to other elements of digital marketing, content matters, right? So what we're doing right now, these conversations that we're having right now, creating videos, creating quick tips for your audience to be able to understand who you are as a business, right? So what are top 5 things that homeowners should do to avoid a fire, right? So Halloween is coming up, and so we did an article for one of our clients about the hazards of Halloween and the lights and all these different things. So tips, video is a digital platform that I would recommend, and then automating your email marketing so that you have triggers set up in your system, right? So that you're following your prospects through taking them through a marketing journey. So the digital component that makes the most sense, obviously social media, we got to have social media. I mean, some people don't see the value in social media, they think it's a waste of time. And then I would say that look at social media from a different perspective, right? So we know that it's brand awareness, but do we also know that from an SEO perspective, the keywords that you use are also being fed to your website, which also supports your the algorithms on Google, which can get you more business, right? So that consistency of posting supports your overall strength for your website. So that component is super important as well.
Great ideas. My. All right, we're on to the last question already. I wish it weren't so, but I want to ask about the fact that you recently became IICRC certified as a water restoration technician. What prompted you to do this, and how has it helped you serve restoration contractors in your work as a marketing expert?
Wow. So I do have a ton of experience outside of having the WRT certification. So when I started with one of the major distributors in marketing, I built relationships with a lot of the manufacturers. So I kind of understood what the products were, right? So I never understood the actual application, despite the fact that I mean, you just won't, right? So unless you're doing the job or you understand how the job is done, the different categories of water, it doesn't really have a place in the marketing piece necessarily. I mean, you can have it, but you don't necessarily need it. So I'm one of those that like to dive as deep as possible, and it really helps me have. I mean, I'm having conversation with restoration business owners, so I understand the challenges that we have. I mean, we talked earlier about one of the challenges with one of our newest clients is on concrete, right? So how's that process happening? What is actually needed to take place in order for them to get that job done right, so we can explain that better to the audience. And it's a really a complicated process because it's very detailed, so you have to pretty much break it down in layman terms to make it easy and consumable for people. So it just helped us dive deeper and just better understand the process.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Nia. It's been great having you and benefiting from your marketing time and insight.
Well, I'm so happy to share my knowledge. I want to commend you on doing an amazing job as well. I
Thank
see
you.
that you've been in the industry for a short amount of time, but I swear you are making a huge impact, and I appreciate the time today. So I am happy to be sharing the insights, and I'm excited.
Thank you. You are too kind. I want to ask before we go where listeners can find you and learn more about marketing for real results.
So listeners can find me always on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. That's the one social media channel that I'm active on. They can also go to our website, M4, the number four, the letter M. So M4 rr.com. We have a blog section that's literally set up for the cleaning and restoration industry. So we segment the information so people so it's just direct, right? Because we service various different vertical markets, we are very specific with how we lay out information. So there's tools, there's tips. I mean, you can always email us at info@m4rr.com and just send us your questions. We love to help. We are super supportive of the industry, and we definitely don't want you to miss any opportunities. So we love to help.
Thanks, Nia. All right, listeners and viewers, for more insights on restoration, remediation, and the people behind it all, visit our website, rnrmagonline.com, also Apple or Spotify. And if you haven't yet, please be sure to follow the podcast so you can keep up with all of our latest episodes. And if you could give us a quick review and rating, we would so appreciate it. We're also on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So we invite you to follow us there too. This has been R&R's Ask the Expert. Thank you as always for listening.